guys, it's Dana at ZIMM'S Guitars. This guitar just came in. It's a 1966 Gibson Melody Maker. It does have the hardtail bridge on there, the wraparound tailpiece, but we have the original bridge right here in a bag. I'm just going to put new strings on it and shine it up and a few things like that, so here we go. So a Melody Maker from 1966. You got that nice translucent red color on here. The difference with the headstock, you're like, why is this headstock so skinny? Well, on all the Gibsons, they actually glued little pieces of wood on both sides. They glued wings on. This has no wings. But it looks like it's still the original nut. It's still the original pick guard that says Melody Maker here. You can see screws that are rusty and old. And I think that this thing, other than having this stop bar tailpiece, I think this thing is an original, all-original guitar. So let's just see what happens here. Oh, it's still got the thumb bleeders. Those are good ones right there. Those are the real deal thumb bleeders right there. But yeah, it seems to be working. Just one single pickup, and there's no other place. You can't route humbuckers on this. You can't put a single coil up front here. This is going to be it. Let's go ahead and we will pull these strings off of here just so we can get in here and try to polish this baby up. Try to make the most of what we got here. I looked over it real closely, and so far, knock on wood, I don't see any headstock injuries of any kind or any cracks of any kind. And hopefully, now that we're deep diving into this, it stays that way, because a lot of times it takes you a while to notice the imperfections. Okay, we do have this wraparound tailpiece on here, which some people say is probably a good idea and something smart to do at this point. As long as you keep your original tailpiece and bridge, you can put them back together if you ever decide to. That's always a good thing. Very important to keep your guitar original. So if we look at this tailpiece, it does sort of have something in here that says TPBR 8518. There is some sort of stamping number in there and stuff. But this looks like it could be, you know, a real Gibson stop tailpiece. Don't know for sure. The worst part about buying a vintage guitar is once you start deep diving into it and noticing the imperfections, then that will really ruin your day. I got my fingers crossed right now that everything is cool here. Let me get my truss rod adjustment tool, and let's see if this will loosen up a little. Yeah, that seems good. Let's try to snug it tight. Yeah, that seems good. Major plus right there. And then again, I did look at the back of the neck right here, and I don't see anything that's showing me that this headstock has broken. If you drop this guitar, this headstock will snap off of here so quick. You've only got a very small amount of wood right there. You have a ½ inch of very brittle mahogany right there that will just snap like a twig if you are not careful. 1966, I believe, is what I was told. there's a lot of ways of looking these things over to make sure that that is the year. And I have a lot of customers that will come in here and they've got a lot of knowledge, and they can look at this and they can say, oh, wait a minute, there's you know, there's a dot on the eye. They didn't have the dot on the eye during some years, and you know, this is a silk screen on there, and this should have been this and that. And so a lot of customers that I have, thankfully, they know a lot about old vintage guitars, and they'll let me know what they think. But right now, I think everything that I see so far is looking good. So it's kind of a sigh of relief right now for me. When you buy these vintage guitars, you got to make sure you know what you're getting, and it's kind of tricky sometimes. Hey guys, so I've got the guitar flipped over on its belly, and I'm just wondering, what should I use to sort of shine this thing up? And so I don't want to take like automotive wax or anything to it. So I think I'm just going to do a little bit of like pledge onto a rag and just sort of hit it like that. Leave it in the comments what you guys think. I know this is a vintage guitar, and this is old nitro lacquer, right? Nitro cellular finish on this. Leave it in the comments what you think I should use on this, or you know, what you guys are telling me. I'll take your advice, but I'm just trying to get some dust off of it, but I don't want to do anything that's going to harm this guitar, because I don't know what this old finish, how it's going to react. You know, there's a lot of guitars where I'll put my little buffer on my drill, and I'll use automotive wax, and I'll just, but I'm a little worried about doing that on this guitar. Some of you guys leave me some comments. Should I be worried about that? Should I not even be using furniture polish? You know, I know there's a lot of companies that put out guitar cleaner stuff. But a lot of times I find myself just using furniture polish or something. This one isn't like my typical video, because I'm a little worried about, you know, are you allowed to just spray stuff on the old guitars? Are you allowed to just hit it with lemon oil? Usually I'll take a little bit of sandpaper and I'll sort of hit the frets real quick with a little sandpaper. I don't really even want to do that. I definitely don't want to take any meat at all off of these frets, or I don't want to take any material off of these frets. You know, you got to be super delicate with an older guitar like this. And so I think a minimal approach to shining this thing up is probably a better idea than a bunch of craziness. You know, a little lemon oil hopefully doesn't hurt anything. We'll find out in a few minutes if my frets start popping out of there. The guitar overall looks pretty good. I know sometimes these Melody Makers, guys don't play them as much as, you know, different Les Pauls and stuff. But I do see right here at the 3rd fret a little fingernail wear right under that B string right there. But overall, again, these frets There's not much wear on these. There's still a lot of life. And this is the kind of guitar that never had binding on it. So there's no binding nubs or anything. There's no like evidence of a refret. So yeah, there's not much I can do to this except, you know, get the fingerprints off of it and put strings on it. Okay, so nothing too crazy, just a set of 10s on here. And this is one of those things where these old vintage guitars, they're kind of, I'm not going to say scary, but you just never know. You just never know what you're going to get with something this old. And like I was saying earlier, sometimes you don't realize the weird little things about the guitar until you really get into it and really look it over. So far, the only thing that I see is a little tiny weird on this one is the nut. It has a few extra slots in it that it looks like somebody was, you know, making a new nut or filing it or doing something. But when you get an old classic guitar like this, an old vintage one, a lot of times you'll want to take it to your favorite local guitar repair guy, and you'll want to have a brand new bone nut made for it. You know, you'll want it to get fixed up as nicely as you can. Yeah, the nut looks kind of weird on it, but it's glued in place nicely. Now I do have a couple of customers, and every time I get a guitar like this, I got a couple of guys that I can call just to try to quick flip it. I don't always wait around and try to get top dollar out of things. I don't very often put stuff on reverb because I don't want to give reverb 8%. And but I do. I have 2 or 3 guys that I can call and tell them that I got an old vintage Gibson, and there's a chance one of them will say, "All right," and they'll jump the gun and go ahead and I can maybe quick flip it to one of those guys. Okay, so I'm checking the intonation now. There's not a whole lot I can do. This is a compensated, you know, wraparound tailpiece. It does have where you can put an Allen wrench in here and move these, you know, forward and back this way. If I strike the note, and now you can see down here, it's a half step down. I have it in E flat. And so when we press down at the 12th fret, it's still showing pretty close. Just maybe a little bit sharp. So sometimes on sharp, you want to pull it back. Let's try it. But all we can do here is the inner and outer string. So on the high E string, you hold down at the 12th fret, and it's showing a little bit sharp. On the low E string, you know, we're pretty darn close, but we're sharp there too. So I think what I'm going to try to do is run both of these screws in, but before I do that, I'm going to have to loosen these strings again. So the reason you want to intonate something is just so that when you strum a chord, it sounds in tune. Okay? So again, because they're sharp, we need to pull back. So I am going to tighten both of these, and we're going to see if this does a little trick to it and brings this bridge back a little bit. So there's a couple turns on that one. There's a couple turns on that one. Okay, so we tune it back up, and hopefully, because of that, it's gotten better. That string looks good. Now our low D string is a little bit, it's a little bit sharp, but that's pretty darn close. But now if you look at these other strings, look, these are probably, because all you can do is here and here, they're probably going to be out of intonation, because that's just kind of how these are. You know what, I could sit here all day and try to fool with this, but it's not going to get much better than that. Alright guys, so here it is. Got the action really low on it. Here's with the tone all the way down. It probably would have been fun to take this pickguard off and look underneath there, but then sometimes you're opening a can of worms with some of these old rusted little screws. And it's kind of cool right now. I happen to have in my possession an old Gibson G40R solid state amp from back in the day. There it is, guys, from 1966. Woo! Thank you guys for watching.